a scared child that lived his entire life in cowardice, running away in shame, leaving those he loved behind to die by the hands of the demons. Self-doubt and guilt is at the core of his character until he somewhat realizes that his brother purposefully sacrificed himself for his survival, only to run into the strongest known warrior alive, traumatizing him to the point of giving him a permanent scar from a boot to the head. It's this monstrous potential that his master tried to help season, but even his own master was scared of that potential power that a nice birthday meat pie couldn't help reconcile. For this video, we will be covering Stark of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. This video will contain some light spoilers ahead for the manga, so if you guys are anime onlys or have not caught up with the manga, this is fair warning. From a backstory of tragedy to accidental scars from his master, Stark is everything shonen distilled into his character because literally no one else fulfills that role. There is Zine, but that's for a different video. Nothing sums up how he's utilized more than that one time Frieren got freaky and pulled out a particularly naughty spell that eats away at your clothing to show what kind of axe you're really working with. For a story that has many elements meant for introspection, there needs to be a balance to the slower pace, less tense nature of many parts of the story, and that includes comedic relief. And that comedic relief often comes in the form of Stark! Stark is like your stereotypical shonen of shonens, and Frieren satirizes this in hilarious ways. On top of his personality of being an absolutely scaredy cat that doesn't realize that he is way stronger than his own mind would allow, in reality, he has the capability to be even stronger than the warrior of the hero's party, who is his master, the dwarf, Eisen. Stark is scary tanky, like blood dripping, you should be laying on the ground instead scary from these kinds of blows. With a super tragic backstory that honestly defies the odds, that's almost like shonen destiny. With his village wiped out, his father neglecting him, and his older brother doing what older brothers do, protecting their younger sibling, Stark was able to survive a demon tragedy and become this blossoming warrior who is coincidentally traveling with a member of his master's party. He randomly gets trained by NPC masters out of nowhere during downtimes in various arcs, and then there's that one time with Craft where we can probably assume he gained a lot of wisdom for a warrior elf that's probably lived for thousands of years. Oh yeah, the story needs some romance that isn't as awkward as Frieren herself, who is willing to let your boy ungrow shorter and just die while she's out there collecting more magical spells that make people naked. How about collecting a magical spell that gives Sari some shoes? So Stark needs to fulfill some kind of semblance of normal people's kind of romance to round out the Frieren story. Yeah, play that I'm too oblivious to understand female heroines that speak with their turn the other cheek, that kind of likes you but is kind of annoyed of you at the same time, that you can't read between the lines trope. You're that kind of shonen, Stark. Many things that we see from Stark and Frieren can honestly be considered satire, but Frieren presents it in a way where you can still take his character very seriously. I mean, look at his backstory. The overall story of Frieren itself is meant to be self-reflective, introspective, and taken very seriously. Sometimes the story needs some fun, and Stark is just too easy to utilize for various fun gags. I said gag, not hag, but that sounds kind of naughty too. One of the most ridiculously fun parts about Stark's character is the type of damage he incurs and just gets back up from. He gets impaled multiple times, either by sharp objects that go or by and just bleeds like an egregious amount of blood, where logic tells you, how the hell are you alive, man? Like, you got the biggest gash of gashes on your body, and why the hell are you smiling? It's almost comical how much damage he often takes in dramatic fashion and then proceeds to survive because warriors have endless amounts of HP. In the later arcs beyond the anime of season 1, like the warrior Eisen, he is super tanky, durable, and it shows with his head constantly in the mouth of a giant creature like a dragon. It's mentioned how many times Heiter is freaked out by Aizen, and even Frieren herself. Now compare that to Stark, but a lot more visible wounds and, pools of blood. When it comes down to a fight against a legitimate villain, something drastic always happens to him. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I say he gets impaled. Stark gets gashed up like no stitches is gonna fix that. And he also sometimes just gets poisoned. As powerful as this story shows Stark, he takes extreme amounts of damage just to come back with something spectacular, like he did to Linny. Where there's a moment where Stark gets hit, like, how the hell is he gonna come back from that? The answer to that is because he just does. Because that's how shonens are. You get back up because of inner man. When he gets poisoned like it's nothing, there's a cougar-loving Zine to help save the day. And the cougar-loving Zine to help save the day saves him again. This is where people that watch Frieren might not notice how Stark's character is almost like a parody of shonen MCs. Stark's I don't believe in myself personality mixed with his absurd resilience that defies logic makes him an easy target for Fern and Frieren's jokes. Seriously, how the hell does he keep surviving these crazy ass moments? When Stark actually needs to be a warrior that Frieren and Fern can count on, he ultimately fulfills this role when the plot calls for it. He will never let us down except when he gets downed by an arrow with poison. Frieren and Fern are very vulnerable to warriors as they are mages, in which in the latest arc in the manga, Frieren and Fern continue to joke about close distances between them being in Stark's favor. Stark can basically slash up Frieren and Fern, but for Fern can get off one of her Zoltrack spells, in which that is Fern's OP ability to cast Zoltrack faster than anyone else can. That is a characteristic about Fern that will continue to be like her calling card. Within close enough proximity, a warrior like Stark still has the advantage over someone like Fern. Knowing that about Stark and how warriors are natural predators in a sense for mages is a fun idea that adds to the badassness of Stark. Even when he is basically the human shield for Frieren and Fern when danger comes from afar. This is one of the bigger themes when Shadow Warriors comes up in the later arcs, as trained warrior assassins become a thing that try to kill OP mages like Frieren and even Sari. I can't wait for this Assassinate Sari arc to be done. This latest arc might go down as the best arc in Frieren. There are so many crazy characters with a crazy ass plot and lots of good character development for multiple characters, like maybe Yubel and Megane. And that is when a special fourth party priest healer might make his epic comeback. Honestly, I can't wait for Zine's arc to be fully realized. But back to Stark. Other examples of Stark stepping up and doing something super duper important is during the fight against Revolte. While Frieren, Fern, and Methode go out to fight a couple of demons, Stark stayed back with his own insistence to stay with Ganao, who was there to protect the dead bodies of his village, to eventually help transport them to a place where they can respectfully be given a proper burial. This villain was more of your typical multi-armed demon freak that likes slicing and dicing to eventually consume his human prey. It is Stark who helped Ganao fight Revolte and give us one of the most fun, close range, almost hand-to-hand combat fights that allowed Stark to show that he could take a ridiculous amount of damage once again. And I was totally with Ganao, where it was like, dude, thought you were dead. There's no other character in Frieren that almost dies as much as Stark. He has that classic Dragon Ball Zenkai boost in him. His durability is pretty unmatched, unless it comes to some poison. There is this motif when it comes to Stark running into these sensei masters of some kind, like Kraft, like that one dude during the first class Mage exam where he was almost completely omitted from the arc. And there are more instances of this as the arc progresses in the manga. The story doesn't ever show the actual training that he's given by these random masters, but heavily implies that something did happen. It's like a recurring gag. The dialogue and tone of these scenes are always pretty hilarious when it happens. It really is Frieren as a story making fun of these various shonen tropes. In this case, it's making light of those training arcs in shonens. So what's a shonen without some cool attacks? Frieren has big pew pews, Fern has fast pew pews, meaning Stark has. Oh my god, are you okay? Stark does have this satisfying axe / move, but has yet to bust out like a classic shonen of shonen finishing move. It might be coming very soon because the latest arc is like the first class mage exam arc, but on steroids. Eventually, Stark might need to bust out something even more epic than this. It does make sense for his character to do some kind of training and provide logic behind his strength. So these various random senseis popping up, giving Stark a legitimate reason as to why he just keeps getting stronger. Just like how Stark was basically omitted out of the first class mage exam, the time span where he can stay at places for months makes a lot of sense time-wise for what he is probably doing behind the scenes. As a story, Frieren provides this calm, chill vibe that actually helps express the theme of how truly vast the world is. The Frieren montages are a perfect example of intertwining the world's scope in fast succession, capturing the realities of how life unfolds. Life is so big, yet in the grand scheme of things, our actions, whether they stem from hard work, kindness, or even life-threatening battles, become mere fleeting moments. These montages embody that sentiment, making the story feel like, well, beyond journey's end. Every once in a while, the story plays into the romantic trope, because that is just what naturally happens in a party of three, where the guy and the girl are similar in age. They are going to naturally develop feelings for one another, whether it's brother, sister, or more like boyfriend and girlfriend. In this case, it's kinda done to take the more boring approach, a friend zone. So here comes the Fern and Stark ship, fulfilling an element in Frieren that satisfies our urge to have characters we like become couples, because Himo is the one that got away. Is it too early to make that joke? To be fair, he shrunk, then died, and it's been like 30 years since. Early on, when Stark had to play pretend son, we get the classic ballroom dance scene, and later on in the manga, we get a real date. Well, kind of. There's nothing more wholesome than young love, where you're confused and have to rely on the least experienced, yet one of the oldest entities on the block,
Frieren-sama,
to help facilitate these two young rascals' romance. Romance isn't necessarily a big part of Frieren, but it's there. You could technically tell the story of Frieren without adding romance in it, but it gives it a different kind of depth. And it's pretty much hinted multiple times that Frieren left your boy Himo hanging until he died. Ain't that partly the reason why Frieren is looking for his soul in heaven? So between Fern and Stark, Stark has a way better shot at recognizing and eventually acknowledging his feelings, as is the same for Fern. It's a nice, natural, wholesome relationship between Stark and Fern, with Stark taking action in the most typical, oblivious shonen way possible. Girl wants guy to understand and take the hints, but guy only understands taking a beating instead. It is during Stark's birthday, 2 times, that continues to fulfill all the aspects that we know about Himo, doing random adventures and side quests for the whole community in the current town that they are visiting, sometimes delaying the ultimate goal of defeating the Demon King. That is the role that Stark continues to fulfill generations down the line. He is like the reluctant but kind-hearted hero that doesn't really want to fight at all, but cares about almost everyone in a town, from helping people with their farm animals, to saving cats, to just spending time with kids, empowering them with his awe-inspiring heroics of almost running away. It's an entire theme of Himo's character that extends down to Stark, and the story plays with this theme to a comedically satirical end, as Fern can't get alone time with him because he's literally with someone, helping them to no end. It's kind of funny that Stark has been like this ever since he was introduced in the story, as he defended a whole town against a big ass dragon. From Flamme to Frieren to Fern, from Himo's way of life in Aizen's warrior training, culminating into this shonen, Stark. We got a hero's hero, reincarnate. It is the impact of Himo that even helped inspire other characters like Weirbull, who wanted to be just like him. It's not a mistake when the story shows him doing simple, kind things for NPCs, like picking up fruits and vegetables that were dropped. It is one of the more wholesome, slice of life, self-reflective, introspective things about Frieren. Enjoying Himo's way of life means inspiring the everyday person by actually helping out people and not thinking you are better than anyone else. As much as we see Himo in Stark, Stark is basically the human version of the dwarf Aizen, Frieren's friend of the party of heroes, and Stark's master that sees every bit of Stark in himself, but has the potential to be even stronger. The easily frightened warrior that constantly has to face his fears. There's a part of the flashback arc with the goddess's monument arc with Aizen that also shows one of the more beneficial natures of fighting with fear, rather than fighting for the fun of the bloodlust and gore. It's interesting to see Stark embody two different aspects of major characters. Although Stark's character is used in sometimes absurd ways, it's never out of bounds and stays relatively grounded. So although Stark's character is just used to show that he is shonen, he does embody all of the previous heroes that made a major impact in the world. With the pulse and heartbeat of Frieren being one of maturity and outlook, is actually surprising at the hilarious ways the story does employ a classic shonen character like Stark. That makes the entire story of Frieren so compelling, because there are so many layers of depth to the story and its characters. It's not just a simple fantasy story of beating up bad guys. It's one where you could look at a character like Stark and see the ridiculousness of shonen and see the need for shonen. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys think about the character Stark in Frieren Beyond Journey's End. Do you guys see all the funny ways he's portrayed in Frieren, or is it just me? Or are there other aspects to his character that you guys find compelling as well? I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. And do me a favor guys, hit the like button if you think Stark is a dope character. And subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusin.com. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.